Hey everybody, I hope you guys are doing well. Hope everybody is happy, healthy, and you know, surviving the quarantine, the pandemic, which is going on a year pretty soon. Dave reminded me of that. Started around mid-March, I think. Maybe beginning of March, and then mid-March is when it got bad enough that I said, hey, I don't think I could come to work anymore, with the masks and the gloves and stuff. And then it was around March 16th I started my hiatus. So, we've been quarantining as a family at home, the three of us, and, not going out much. We order our groceries a lot of the time. Sometimes, one of us will go out, but masking up to put the trash in the compactor, or go in the hallway, or to get take out food from somebody, we mask up. So we're being pretty careful. The relatives, we don't do the holiday get-togethers and birthdays and anniversaries, so it's been kind of rough. Remote school is definitely not as good as regular school. There's no socialization, stuff like that. Kids, work on that, their manners and all kinds of things. So, we're not really mixing with society for a year. Things change, or they become a little bit looser. Somebody asked me if I really liked Reverend guitars, or if it's like a paid promotion. Nah, no paid promotions. I wish. Ken Haas, the owner of Reverend, did once give me a couple of T-shirts and a Reverend flashlight and stuff. I actually sent him one of my hats. The hat that I'm wearing now, I had gotten two of them. So one of them was like barely worn at all. It was pretty much new. So I sent that to him. So he sent me like a big bag of like Reverend swag and stuff. T-shirts, Reverend knit hat, flashlight, all kinds of stuff. I can't even remember how many things he gave me, but Reverend mugs. No sponsors or paid promotions on this show. If I recommend something like a pedal or something like that, it has to be good. If somebody sends me a pedal to, demo on my channel here, it's got to be something I like, or otherwise I just won't, I won't run it. And the same thing with hats. I try not to talk about any hats that I dislike. For the most part, every hat that I dislike is in the discount section. We have a back room sale where everything goes half price, just wholesale. So in other words, we don't make a penny off of it. And we'd rather get rid of the stuff, get a little bit of money in the register so we could pay bills, keep the store going during the pandemic, and clear out room on the wall, on the display wall, and in the basement for old styles. But when a style comes in that's a little so-so, like the felt is temperamental, anything like that, we stick it right on there, and that way, you're buying it for half price, and it's kind of like a good deal then. But yeah, there are not that many hats that I dislike. Like in the new arrival section, there's a couple that are a little conservative for me, or the style's not right for me. But most of them are pretty solid hats. At this point, we're not really ordering things that are, sketchy. We're taking like a lot of risks. We're ordering a little bit lighter because of the pandemic, and that there's not a lot of people in the shop and stuff. And we're focusing in on some very good models, like the Valencia, the Seville, the Ken, the Asher, the Sax, and things like this that we know are good, and we have no problems with them. The calico, they're very, very reliable hats. And things that you see like in the discount section might be hats that I actually dislike. That's another question somebody asked me. You like a lot of the hats, don't you? I was like, well, yeah. Most of the stuff that I dislike is there. I figure for half price it's worth it. Like if somebody can afford to get into the $200 range for fur felt hats, and here they go, they can get, for $100 a nice fur felt hat where nobody really offers things like that. Not every hat in the discount section is faulty felt. Some of it is styles that just didn't sell well. Other things like we ordered too many of them, where we had redundant styles and they just stayed for too many years. But a lot of times it's things like that. We weren't really crazy about the quality. It was okay. Sometimes there were issues. Some hats had actual issues. There was one Stetson Runabout, I think. Yeah, the Runabout travel hat. We had some bad hats in that batch. That went right into, it was like a sweatband issue. Some of the stitches on the inner sweatband were coming out. They were sewed, crooked or something. Those ones with bad sweatbands, they basically got put in the back room, like literally, and people would buy them, as is and stuff, But that style we dropped it, because there were issues, and we didn't want to continue that as a crushable, even if it was just one batch and the issue was like isolated to one little batch. We move on, That would be nice, though, if I had paid promotions. That would be really cool if Reverend, did something for me. That'd be cool. I do, I play them all. This is my favorite one right now. It's the Reverend Jetstream 390, meaning 3 P90 pickups. So these are single coils. It's essentially like a Stratocaster. So you have 3 single coil pickups and a 5-position switch. So you can get that out of phase, kind of clapped in Hendrixy thing. It's a little dirty. Very Strat-like. It has a special bass control where you could add bass to the, typical Strat mix. Get thicker. So instead of that typical. You can thicken it up. Thinner down, it's more like a traditional Strat. So I've never been able to really jive with Strats too well, but this one seems to work for me. Because I'm used to the Reverend necks, which seem perfect to me. They just have the perfect amount of thickness and leverage the way the thumb gets behind it. And that bass contour control is really important to me. Stick it out. They seem to stay in tune when I pull them off my rack too. I like the things like the binding, you know, the details, the tummy cut, you know, it keeps it from kind of stabbing you like the way a Telecaster has those kind of pointy edges. So everything's very smooth and glassy and fast feeling. Locking tuners come standard, you know, on every one, so you could lock the tuners down. You don't have to worry about, you know, wrapping it around the post too many times. Just clamp it down, and it's like a vise. It just clamps it. So no matter how much you stretch the string, it's not going to pull out, you know, or loosen up. Corina body, it's a wood called Corina, with a K. It's kind of like the old 50s Flying V's and Explorers were made out of that. It's kind of a good wood, expensive wood. It's also called Black Limba. It's really nice necks. Some of them are really heavily flamed, I've seen. This one is not. Maple necks. Some sort of a Graphtec nut and a triple string tree, which is really cool. I like that. These are nice picks too, these Clayton, what are they called? Duraflex. They have the same kind of sandpapery feel like a Tortex has. So it's hard to drop. They're nice. You get a big giant pack, you know, for real cheap. So it's not like buying a V-pick where you get like one pick for like, you know, $10 or something. But they do last though. Been using those. Also been using these Dunlop Tortex purples. Again, it has that kind of sandy I like that feeling, the Tortex. Kind of a texture to it. That was sloppy. Sloppy again. Getting a little carried away there, sorry. Alright. What should we talk about today? Some guy wants to interview me on his podcast, I guess. I don't know if it's a radio station or a podcast. I'm going to assume it's a podcast. That's cool. Could do it. I started to thinking, about some of the anecdotes, what do you call it? So, some of the funnier or more interesting experiences that have gone down whilst I'm working at the hat shop. Some of them music related too, guitar related. It's pretty interesting. So yeah, I could talk about a couple of those things. Like what it's like to be a hat shop guy in New York. Maybe you're thinking that, I'm really into hats. Not Kevin. You're thinking that I'm into hats, and maybe working at a hat shop might be something for me. Maybe even JJ Hat Center might need somebody like me. You might be thinking what's it like? Well, for the most part, it's like a regular job. When it's slow, like in the morning or like on rainy or snowy days or something. We do stock work. We have regular things to do, like cartons, breaking up boxes and flattening them with box cutters so we could get them ready for the trash collector, things like that. Like cleaning stuff. There's all kinds of little chores. There's a certain area might be messed up, like the back room or something might need some fixing. The hats need dusting like constantly, especially the ones on one side of the shop are not behind glass. They're just sitting on these brass bars, sort of like shelves. Not really shelves, it's like 3 bars. It's like this system, so they're kind of on a shelf, but kind of not. So they get really dusty, so you have to constantly, pat them down with packing tape or with, brushes or both. Mostly just the top hat, they're in like stacks of 3, there'll be 3, 3, 3, like a style. Usually there are 3 stacks for a style. It'll be staggered 6 7/8, 7, 7 1/8. Okay, then we go back to this pile. On top of the 6 7/8 will be 7 1/4, 7 3/8, 7 1/2. Right? And on top of that, 6 7/8 1/4 would be 7 5/8, 7 3/4, 7 7/8. So they're staggered in a way that 2 sizes that are close to each other don't stack together, so they don't squash each other's ribbons. And there's a good space, between the smaller hat and the big hat, so they're not like, close, tight. So you have to learn the stacks. So when somebody says I need a 7 1/8, you have to walk over to the 3 stacks of hats and know where that 1/8 is. Okay, the left pile is 6 7/8, 7 1/4, 7 5/8. The middle pile is a 7, 7 3/8, 7 3/4. And the one on the right has got your half on top, the 1/8 underneath it. So it's the one on the right. So somebody might be trying to open up the case, and you'll be like, "Excuse me, can I help you?" "Oh, I need a 7 1/8. I know where it is. It's under this stack." That's one of the things you have to learn when you get the job and stuff. You got to learn the difference between IVs and newsboys, and the difference, like where we keep things and all that stuff, and our stock system. But for the most part, it's it's selling hats. You stand behind the counter or in front of the counter. When people come in, you try to either guide them, be their hat guy, and take them in a direction where they want to go, or if they want to be left alone, you just basically tell them, okay, no problem. Take a look around. If anything strikes your eye, just give me a shout, and I'll get you in your size. So, we don't really like people opening up the glass and taking the hats out themselves most of the time, because 9 out of 10 times when they do it, the hats do an avalanche and everything collapses, because it's weird. They're not really on shelves. They're on these bars, these long brass bars, like the length of my room and stuff, really long. And the brass bars are on shelves, like shelf brackets. Any of the brackets underneath shelves, those brass little like wedge-shaped triangles, they're on those with little semicircles, like little half pipes cut out. Somebody cut it with some sort of a drill or something, and they fit into those little grooves. So in other words, they're sitting because of gravity, but sometimes if you take like the weight off of one end, the poles go like this, and everything slides off, and it's like this avalanche effect. The entire thing. It's a weird design because the poles are actually not, so yeah, everything's like fitting into these little grooves, but they're not attached. They're not like welded onto the shelf brackets. They're just sort of resting on them. So, I guess we could tie them down, but it would look bad, so we just keep that system. So basically, every once in a while, if somebody will go in there, like a customer, and they'll take a stack of hats out, and they'll just take it out the wrong way or aggressively or something, and there's these big avalanches. So we tend to stop people from grabbing the hats themselves, where I don't really care as much. What I'll generally do is I'll let somebody do it for a few seconds and kind of walk up on them like slowly and be like, "Hey, let me help you with that." We tend to get a lot of avalanches, and some of the other employees are a little more aggressive with it, like, excuse me, but I think there are a lot of people who don't want to be salesmen. They don't want to have a guy working with them, They want to check everything out themselves with their own eyes. They want to check it all out, and then they're going to say, okay, I want this one. And then when they find the style they want, they'll work with you to get the right size, which is really understandable. I'm the same way when I go into like a sneaker place, you know, like those Foot Locker places. When I go into those spots, there's always a couple of teenagers like, yo, can I help you? And I'm like, I'm just checking it out, I'll let you know. When I find a couple of things I want, you know, I'll show you, you know. So, some people want to be left alone, so I tell them kind of like, you know, just let me know. And it sort of, you know, it starts from there. The whole the hat salesman thing is generally, a lot of it is just taste, you know. It's your taste, and I feel it's also good to go on other people's taste. You know, if there's other ladies around, I ask them. People who I really trust their opinion, like Lance, he's like the fashion guy. You know, I always ask him, like, yo, this guy's got a camel coat at home, okay? What do you think? You think that's gonna look good in his camel coat? And he'll be like, yeah, that, you know, or he'll say no. The owner, I'll ask her a lot. She's awesome. She's got a good eye. You know, sometimes I can't decide, or they can't decide, or maybe I'm steering them towards one, and they're kind of steering towards another. And then I say, okay, this guy likes that one, so I start, you know, encouraging him about the one that he wants. He's like, okay, this guy's not helping me at all, and they get more confused. So that's when I start asking other people and getting an opinion. Most of it is, that's what it is. It's 90% taste. There are some mechanics to it also. Obviously, when you see like, you know, a face this wide, you don't want things sticking really wide out. There should be a kind of a correlation. Like if you're a bigger guy, big burly shoulders and stuff, you can wear short brim hats like this and they're going to be real smooth and cool on you. But then as you start going into a little bit wider hats, you'd be like, hey, you know what? It looks more relaxed. Or it looks more, I don't know, balanced, or it looks more outdoorsy. So it's also, it's relative. If this 2-inch brim, this is about 2 or 2 1/8, if it looks like that on my face, which is, you know, my face gets big and small. Right now it's a kind of bony. If it looks like that on me, and you're a much bigger guy, it's going to look shorter on you. So you might need to go up to something slightly, you know, a little fuller than this to get the same look. Depending, you know, it depends on how much bigger we're talking. I don't know, I sort of talked myself into a corner. Excuse me. There definitely have been a lot of cool anecdotes working at JJ Hat Center. You know, it's on 5th Avenue, and we get a lot of celebrities going in there because it's basically, you know, like if you want to find the best hat shop in New York, well, where's the place? You know, I want some real deal stuff. We're like it, you know, we're what's left. When I first got the job, there were like 3 or 4 of them. There's, yeah, it was kind of like a ritzy, bougie one in Midtown, like 42nd. There was one on 8th Avenue at about 41st. That was, you know, good. It was reputable. A little bit cheaper stuff, a little bit more hip-hop-y, you know, like that's where I think Biggie Smalls used to shop there, and, you know, that was a good place, you know, and they're all gone, these places. There was 1 or 2 others downtown that were very small. One like in the financial area, down, all the way at the bottom of downtown. There was one by the seaport. There were a couple of small shops. There were 2 in Brooklyn. And all those places slowly shut down, and, you know, we became like the only one. So, you know, when a stylist wants to come in to do a movie that's in New York, or, you know, they'll come to JJ's to get their hats. Like, we did all the hats for The Irishman. They came in for months and months in advance for that hat. Before anybody was even talking about that film, you know, it was just like, it might have been a year or something, you know, they started coming in for those hats. Many hats for The Irishman. And we did TV shows, you know, and we did, you know, cable series too. White Collar, Blacklist. We were even, like, I think in an episode of Blacklist, one of our salesmen was in it, and, you know, and they filmed it from inside of JJ's. I heard that they're supposed to come back and do a follow-up to that, actually. They were talking about doing a little minor construction to hide, like, a staircase, you know, to get a certain scene. Like, you know, putting up some kind of little fake wall or something. There have been, you know, a few things filmed in there. We had a wedding in there. One of the guys got married in there. Interesting story, when I was working at JJ's, this was a little while ago, the Allman Brothers Band were in town, and there was a guy coming in to the shop. He looked kind of like a typical Texan guy, like, I don't know, just like a gray hair, kind of little handlebar mustache, kind of, like, here's one of those hat guys who's, like, you know, into hats and knows hat stuff, and he's gonna kind of, like, try to show me everything he knows, you know. And I don't really look at that negatively. It's just like, you know, there's certain, like, types you sort of, like, you try to judge a book by its cover when you're, like, approaching somebody, like, oh, it's gonna be one of those guys, you know. And it turned out it kind of was, you know. He was, like, this southern accent guy with gray hair, got what he was wearing, jean jacket or leather jacket. Oh yeah, one of those jean jackets with the sheepskin fur on the inside, like the cowboys wear, with those Levi's sheepskin lined denims, and gray little handlebar mustache. So he's telling me this and that. Do I have a Hamburg in a wide brim in something like a brown? And we just happened to have it, you know. We had this one Hamburg that was, like, not a typical Hamburg like this. It was like, this is about a Hamburg size. It was like out to here, almost like a Western Hamburg. It was a big brim Hamburg that we'd ordered. And it was from Canadian Biltmore, so, you know, they would do custom stuff for us. So he was like, great. He was like, can you shape the brim like a Western? You know, I want you to pull the front down and the back down, like really Western-like, you know, like real exaggerated. Can you get that side up? I was like, yeah, I could do it, you know. And then he said, do you mind if I do it? So he started steaming it. Okay, steaming it. And he brings a hat up, and then he gives me his credit card. Says Forrest R. Betts. Thinking, I know that name. I was like, and then it's, you know, like the bell rang, you know. It's Dickie Betts from the Allmans. And I said, any relation? You know, I had all of a sudden got that starstruck feeling. You know, your heart starts beating, and you just feel like the biggest jerk all of a sudden. And he's like, yup. You know, I said, any relation? He goes, yup. Start talking, this and that. He goes, you're a fan? I said, yes. So he says, let me come over to the steamer. And he starts steaming it. As he's steaming, he's talking to me and not really paying perfect attention to his, you know, he's pressing the pedal. He's steaming pretty good, actually. Then he burns his finger. He goes, ah! And he's like, whoa. Dickie, do me a favor. Let me finish up for you. You know, if you're playing a show, you know, I don't want you to mess your hands up, you know. And he's like, you're probably right. So I went and I finished it up. I gave it a really deep roll. And sure enough, he invited me to the show. He wore it on the stage at the Beacon Theater that night. When I got there, the road manager guy was like this Willie Nelson looking dude, long beard, like braids, all like, road looking, real cool. He explained to me it's like a sober backstage, it doesn't mean you could go get drinks every 10 minutes and, nothing, no funny business. We were like, okay, no problem, no problem. So he's walking us in, he walks us through the theater, we're going, like, whoa, the seats are getting better. We pass the first row, go up these little stairs through this little back hallway to the backstage, and then he parades us onto the stage, and there's 2 rows of like those little silver bridge chairs, those kind of like brownish metal. You know what I'm talking about, right? Those are typical bridge chairs. They're like folding chairs lined up at the back of the stage, 2 rows. So very sheepishly, we sat down in the 2, furthest away from the stage on the side, in the back row. And then we're seeing people working, flashlights, working on the pedals, working on the drums, this and that. And then Dickie comes out. He's on the stage. Everybody's kind of like, hey, hey. And he's like, hey, this is Kevin, and your name? He said, my friend's Roland, who was there. He's like, this is the guy from the hat shop I was telling you about. He's like, come over here, man. He introduces me around. He puts me in the front row at the, there were 2 different rows of bridge chairs. In the front row on the other side, like towards the middle of the stage. And I was right there, like between the drum set and the Leslie speaker from Greg's organ and stuff. And we watched the show, Allman Brothers show, with Dickie Betts, the real lineup. Dickie, Greg, everybody. And Jack Pearson was also playing with them. He was the other guitarist, I believe. And it was amazing. It was incredible. Really, really great experience. And the next day, I believe it was the very next day, Jack Pearson comes in, the other guitarist for the Allman Brothers, and I already kind of know what's going to happen, So he's like, hey, so you guys got Newsboys? I sold Jack Pearson a couple of Newsboys, and he's like, you want to go to the show? I was like, yes. Gave me a couple of tickets. Again, wasn't the same juice as Dickie. Not at all. I had to sit in the audience, but it was like in the first, the first 5 to 7 rows were like press seats or something. So I got to see it from 6th or 7th row or something. And it was center. It was really good seats. It wasn't on the stage. I was a little disappointed, but not really, It was kind of still amazing. It was the second night in a row I got to see them. This classic lineup, and it was good seeing it from both angles too, from the audience's perspective and from Dickie's perspective too, being right up on stage, like behind him and stuff. That was one of the best experiences where hats brought me to. That was one of my dream days. That was very, very cool experience. I remember the whole thing feeling like a dream. There's a lot of anecdotes like that at JJ's. I remember I had Liza Minnelli came in, and she was really sweet. She was getting married to that guy. I forgot what his name was, David something, the young guy. Right down the block, there was a very modern kind of a church. It's sort of like multi-denominational. I don't know, maybe they accept gay people or something. It's like a very modern kind of a today's, hip church. Something like the little church down the block or something like the little church down the street. And you had a cute little garden in the front. Very beautiful church. She was getting married like 3 blocks away from JJ's. And she wanted a black fedora so she could be incognito for the paparazzis to hide her face. Something that looked good, Excuse me, a seltzer. The guy with the radio interviewer guy or podcast guy, he said Kevin's laid back style, what he said, laid back informal style or something like that. That's me. Lots of times my son comes in here, he wants to play and stuff, you know. I generally don't edit things out. So that was interesting. There was another time where there was the guy who came in with no pants. He was interesting. A guy with like a camel, like a really nice overcoat, loafers, shirt, tie, and everything, and just like no pants, just like boxer shorts and like hairy legs, you know. And he was just like all like normal and stuff. I felt like, you know, he'd forgotten something. Like he went out with, you know, and it wasn't like some hip-looking club kid like trying to be like, you know, really cool. It was like some regular-looking like, you know, 40-something-year-old European dude. It's so strange. Just boxer shorts. Everything else normal. I even have there's a video on that. You could say like the day the guy came in with no pants on. And I show the photo. I think I show it even on the thumbnail. You know, you don't even have to watch the video, it's there. But yeah, this guy came in and I hid behind a mirror. There was a mirror, like one of those three-way mirrors shaped kind of like a U shape. And I was hiding behind it, like snickering and giggling. I couldn't help it. It was like, you know, really unprofessional. It wasn't the way I generally handle stuff. But I was like this little kid and I couldn't handle like the laughter. So I was hiding back there, hiding. And somehow I got up the cojones to snap a picture of him. It was like totally inappropriate. But I did, because I just figured nobody would ever believe it, you know. It was like a winter day. Everybody was walking around with like, you know, overcoats, scarves and stuff, you know, and this guy just had everything on perfect, except pants. It's just like his underwear. I don't even think they were boxers. I think they were like tighty whities, like, you know, those briefs, like those Fruit of the Loom brief things. That was really strange. We had, you know, some strange people there. There was one time where I worked in the small store. We had a satellite shop downtown in the village, and I used to run it alone, like all by myself, nobody with me. And one time a kid came in. He was with a skateboard, and I was with another customer selling a pretty expensive hat at the time, so I wasn't paying him enough attention, and so I was just, you know, selling this hat and then watching the kid with the skateboard out of my sort of peripheral vision, and then I see he grabs a stack of hats, you know, like stole them. You know, we kept them on stack, so it was like small, medium, large, extra, double X. He stole like, you know, 5 hats, and then kind of like darted out really fast in like a very obvious kind of aggressive way, where he could have just grabbed it, you know, very gently and just walked out casually. I probably wouldn't have noticed, but, you know, he was like, you know, kind of like that. And the guy who was with me, the customer, was like, huh, you saw that, right? And I was like, yeah, I saw it, you know. But there wasn't much I could do because there was a customer there, you know. I would have to actually lock up the shop and, you know, and go after the kid or something, you know. So I finished up this sale. It was a expensive hat, so at the time, you know, like selling like a $350 hat in this little satellite store was good for me, you know, because like, you know, I wanted to break, you know, this mark and that mark, and I really was like proud of running the shop by myself. So I really wanted to sell like, you know, the expensive stuff and lots of it, and have the store kind of, you know, move up in a sense, you know. And my son just texted me, Kevin, you're still making video. Okay, so funny. So anyway, I finished the sale. I lock up. I grab the pole, the thing that we use to close the awnings with, and I ran out and I saw him in Tompkins Square Park standing there on the phone holding a bag, like, you know, maybe 100 feet from where my store was. So I went up to him with this big, you know, like metal pole thing, and I was like, you know, dude, give me back the hats right now, I'll have no problem, you know. And he's like, oh, there's some guy here threatening me. Excuse me, there's somebody here threatening me. I was like, I'm not threatening you, but if you don't give me back my hats, then you just see what happens, you know, because I didn't want to, like, say something, you know, like, illegal, like, I'm gonna kill you, and then, you know, be quoted and really throw me in jail or something. So, he pulled out his bag, he gave me the stack of hats, and then, I walked back to the shop, and it felt, like, really big, you know. I was like, yeah, yeah. But in hindsight, I guess it was really stupid. I shouldn't have done it, you know. But it was kind of like a kid. It was like this skateboard kid. It looked like this little fat, like 14-year-old runaway, kind of. Or just some kid from Jersey who was like pretending to be a runaway or something. And he just, I don't know, didn't really seem like a guy. It was more of a kid. So I felt okay getting the hats back. That's about it. So.